I'll be the last presentation, and you've had an opportunity to enjoy the beverages, so I'm not going to be delaying you in getting to those. But I want to just kind of give you a summary on where we're at with the new Colorado Center for Innovation and Community Capital. Those of you who know me know that I've been working with new and strange and exotic and sometimes non-working sources of capital. We're going to be celebrating the 5th non-anniversary of crowdfunding in Colorado with no successful capital campaigns, despite a huge amount of time and effort working that direction. One of the things that attracted me to Opportunity Zones was the fact that this, at the community level, would probably spur an interest in the use of crowdfunding as a mechanism to allow everybody within a community to participate. So this would be part of an anti-gentrification, part of a collaboration and a way for communities to participate in a high transparency. So I was interested in that, but I continue to see really good projects that can make a significant difference in a community. But what we're seeing with Opportunity Zones is the same kind of problem we saw with crowdfunding. It's complex. It requires time. In some cases, it requires resources that the business does not have, cannot get, no matter how much they want or how much they want to try. And so after modeling different types of funds, micro funds and so forth, it seemed to be the time to roll out what we're calling a Funders Fund, which is the first pilot or demonstration of this is the Colorado Center for Innovation and Community Capital. This particular fund will invest in capital campaigns. What we're looking to do is a business who meets our criteria, which is primarily, can you still be around in 10 years? That if you can demonstrate to us that you have what it takes to get there, and we're still working on the criteria for this, then we're interested in helping you successfully raise the money you need. And we're starting with Opportunity Zone businesses, and we're looking probably to set up a second fund soon on non-Opportunity Zone businesses to cover the entire spectrum. And this one is Colorado focused, so it's limited to small businesses within the state of Colorado. But essentially, if a small business meets our criteria, we'll put together a dream team of people, we'll advance the cost, and we'll walk in and take over the entire capital campaign and steer, nurture, script, mentor a small business through the process with the goal of raising $500,000 to potentially over $5 million. In exchange for that, then we take back a fee that's paid out of a successful capital campaign if and when it is successful, and we'll also take stock in the company. The stock in the company will be held for the 10-year term to qualify for the Opportunity Zone tax incentives. And if all these businesses succeed at the end of 10 years, this is going to have one of the highest payouts of any Opportunity Zone investment anywhere at any time. That all being said, we're right now shooting for a minimum 80% success in the capital campaigns and a 50% success in surviving for 10 years. Which will still generate a very healthy return to investors. And so this is the first of many potential funds. We're talking with Ken about doing one in New Mexico. We're talking with also El Paso, Texas, Casper, Wyoming, and Vernal, Utah about being sites for 4 additional state funds. As it's conceived, it can also be modified into an industry fund. So we could do one for hemp. We can do them for social causes. So we're talking about doing one with Sudden City for workforce housing, which is pervasive to every community in the Opportunity Zone. Workforce housing is a consistent challenge. And the idea is it's a 10-year hold. And I can't think of a single statement that has both caused me to turn my head inside out and try to understand the difference between short-term and long-term patient capital, because almost everything we do is short-term, and now we're having to think long-term. And there aren't a lot of people around there who do that. Pension funds and insurance companies are the 2 common examples, but almost nobody else does. So right now, we've set up a fund. We have received capital into the fund. We're expecting that we'll get enough money in next week to pull the trigger. We've already identified a site in Commerce City or negotiating a lease where we're going to work what amounts to be a co-working space for Opportunity Zone businesses. So anyone who needs to hang their hat in an Opportunity Zone who doesn't have one will be able to do that. We actually have had 2 funds contact us and ask also to potentially cohabit the space with us. So we're in full tilt gear. And some of you may be aware that the Office of Economic Development put out an RFP last week to fund, low fund, up to 10 Opportunity Zone businesses to receive the benefit. And we're intending to bid on that with a lesser bundle of services, but one that we think can still get the job done in communities across Colorado. And that one's primarily rural focused. So we think this is going to fill a major gap that has always been present in small businesses raising capital, and particularly be beneficial to Opportunity Zone located businesses. Now, when we use the definition of capital, we're using any form of capital. We're not limited to cash, looking at people, facilities, equipment, anything in kind that can work. We don't care what kind of structure it is. It can be grant, equity, debt financing, revenue share, or whatever. And we're going to be building a number of systems to facilitate this to make it more efficient. Because one of the problems most small businesses have is when they raise money, it's like putting on a wedding. They spend a whole bunch of money and then it's all gone and there's no reuse for any of that money. So by creating these common systems, we can drop the cost substantially for a lot of the common expenses in a capital campaign, and then matching that with people who've been through the drill, know where everything works and how it works. We expect to have some great responses on that. So we're up and going, but if any of you are interested in being a potential candidate for this company, or maybe under the RFP if we are successful in winning that bid, or some other grants that we're being appraised about, we'll be happy to talk to you about that and see what we can do to help you through the process. Beyond that, any questions? Steve? Yeah, so the question is how do you handle rock stars who cash out before the end of the 10 years? The Opportunity Zone laws allow you to sell an asset before the 10-year time period, but you're not allowed to distribute the capital gains from that particular sale. So if a rock star were to be sold, we would have to take all the gain in the stock that we would hold and rolled into additional investments in additional small businesses until the end of the 10-year term. So it would create some interesting positive complications if we were to get a large chunk of cash and have to put all that to work. But because of the interest we've had both in industry and social causes and other states, there's a variety of ways we can make that work. Great question. Hope it happens. So that brings us to the end of part 4. I am going to walk through tonight. I don't do this every event. Some of the resources that are available, we've added a number of new sources to the list that I want to bring to your attention. And these are other groups, other organizations, other individuals who are doing good things within the Opportunity Zone, are considered a source of knowledge and something that you may want to pay attention to. You'll be getting the slide deck tomorrow morning, so you don't have to worry about rapidly writing down everything I say or talk about. But the state of Colorado is continuing to be a major advocate for Opportunity Zones, and they are going to be putting on a conference October 1st. They're putting together the program now, and we'll see how that goes. But they've come out with some new programs. For those of you who are service providers, they are creating a directory now of all the service providers in the state who are supporting Opportunity Zones. Just came out this week. And there are some new micro programs to help them, which I'm still trying to, are going to be announced next week, I guess, or in 2 weeks.
So that's a grant up to $2,000?
Yeah.
What is that? Sorry.
I don't know. I asked the question, and I have not been able to get a total answer to that yet. Then we have Ross, who's here tonight, who has created his own mapping of Opportunity Zone zones within the state of Colorado, and has additional data beyond what's currently available at the state, which give you a better idea maybe about the community where the Opportunity Zone is located. So Ross is continuing to help us all out there. We then have the video recordings. All of you are familiar with the fact that every one of these events is recorded by Steve Maltz with AdCom, who does an awesome job. And typically within a week of the event, week to 2 weeks, we'll get all the editing done, and it's posted up on YouTube, and we'll notify all of you when it's available and give you all the links. The video for the last event will be posted. It's already posted, but it'll be labeled correctly with the right descriptors and hashtags sometime tomorrow morning before I leave town. Then we have a Facebook group. This is a relatively recent group that has come in under Opportunity Fund. They're sharing information and stories and so forth, and you can get a slightly different perspective, different look at the Opportunity Zone industry as it's evolving. We have the Oz Guide, which is put out by Mendora. And it's a pretty good ongoing source of information. Again, it's kind of like a newsletter or news magazine that talks about different projects going on. That can be a good place to look for ideas. This is the one I announced just a couple weeks ago. No, this is a new one. This is the Council Development Finance Agency, CDFA. If you're doing anything in terms of economic development, urban planning, financing in a community at the municipal level or whatever, this is a top flight blue chip organization that puts on awesome programs all the time on this area. They're the ones who hosted the program on PACE financing yesterday. It's a 4-part, 8-hour program on PACE, and it was free. A lot of their stuff, there are price tags associated with it, but good quality, completely comprehensive and funding municipal projects of any shape, size, or form. Then we have this one. This is the directory that was published a couple weeks ago by the National Council of State Housing Authorities. This is a list of all the known opportunity zones that they're aware of the funds. So if you're looking for funding, you may find money from this source that aligns with your particular project. Now, most of these projects are hyper-local. A lot of them are very fixed or siloed as to what they're willing to look at, so your project may or may not be something of interest to them. But again, if you're getting into something that has either replication potential or it may be impacting a social cause, you may find something in here that matches up with you. So this is, as far as I know, it's the largest list of Opportunity Zone funds that exist in the United States. Then this is the Global Institute of Innovation Districts. As we've been working on embedding innovation into Opportunity Zones, this is a group that recently formed, and a lot of them are spin-offs from yet another institute who's been doing work on innovation districts as a organized local, hyper-local effort to instill economic growth based on innovation. And they just formed this new group, and they're getting more active into Opportunity Zones as it crosses over with what they're doing.
Is this in Colorado, or do you know where this is?
Most of these people are out of the East Coast. I'm sorry I can't recall the group they were with before, but it was more of a household name, large brand institute that does a lot of think tank stuff. And I've been following the work of the individuals for several years. And I think that they're going to, again, bring some new insight, different perspective to how you might want to look at an opportunity zone, regardless of where it's located. And then there's me. So last but not least, we have our meetup group. This is the link to it. We have a library which is in development, and with Nate's switch to more incentivized work, we're expecting to see this improved a lot. And then I'm available for contact when working with the zone. Right now, there are lots of things going on. The knowledge base is increasing. The growth in opportunity zones is geometrically going up. It's looking more and more like a hockey stick all the time. And as more people become familiar and the communities get involved, more businesses jump into this, I don't see this thing slowing down for the next 2 to 3 years because the incentives are still on the back end and they're still there for the having. We've seen this group grow to over 186 members since we started a year ago, and with a little extra energy and a funders fund side by side with it, we expect it's going to grow pretty rapidly over the next few years. We have set it up in a manner where within Meetup we can set up franchisees or local city participants, and so part of our growth pattern is to allow us to have a meetup that's doing the same thing and crossing the video recordings and other materials back and forth, so we're building a larger base of knowledge that everybody can draw upon. So it like all good bootstrap projects, is growing up painfully, but it's going in the right direction. And I think it's reflected by our ability to get a number of very good presentations here tonight. And so I'm hopeful that all of you gain your funding and with luck before the end of the year, so Christmas can come early. But beyond that, everything's good. So we still have some beer and wine if you'd like to have some. It looks like the food's almost gone, but please introduce yourself to everybody else here, because one last tip for everybody raising capital is that the number of people you know directly impacts the number of investors you may know. And the larger your board of directors and your board of advisors, the more people you know, which means the more investors you may know. As much as we all tend to try to do things by ourselves or bootstrap stuff along, having a big board and a big board of advisors and so forth can rapidly expand your network. And the first rule of thumb in qualifying an investor for a quick investment is, do they already know you? So please keep that in mind. That means during the holiday season, you have a chance to meet a few thousand more people. Take advantage of that. Okay, thanks everybody.